What is the highest guidance that Geminis need to hear right now? What brought them to this reading? That is like half a deck. That's way too much. What is the precise guidance that Gemini needs to hear? Now, I'm hearing a sense of maybe you have a lot of things that are just kind of going on in your mental state of not knowing which direction to go. Like there's a lot going on where maybe you could just be shutting down mentally because it's just like, well, I got XY things to do and I only got this much time, and it's like, ugh. So we have here the two first cards coming out is In Touch with Your Body and Gentleness. So this is all about that self-love, that self-care, that focusing on you. And it's like when they talk about when if a plane is going down, that you got to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you help anyone else, because if you're too busy helping everyone else and doing all these other things and you're not focusing on you, eventually that's going to catch up. And it feels like you getting in tuned and remembering the richness and the healthiness of eating healthy, of working out, of making movement, of looking good, feeling yourself and being kind to yourself, and giving yourself that self-love and having more of an ease and a flow to your energy and to the things that you say to yourself as well. It almost feels like, I don't know if maybe you've taken a break from focusing on you for whatever reason. I keep hearing something about time, not feeling like you have enough time to do these things for yourself. But even if you don't have, as much time as maybe your friends or someone else that or whatever, people you see on social media, there's always a way to even just change it just a tiny bit. And sometimes we can get so caught up in the fact that, we need to spend like hours and hours or else it's just not going to work. It's just like, but there's a lot of power in just doing, maybe a 5 minutes, maybe a 1-2 step, just a little bit, and leaving it as is. Because if you think about it, if you did something for 5 minutes every single day versus not doing something for 5 minutes every single day, the time where you took that 5 minutes, you are so much closer than you were before, because it compounds and accumulates. It may not be at the speed that you want, but it's still at a speed that you can do until you can get to a point where you can do it more at the level that you're looking for. We have here decluttering. Yeah, there's a sense of exhaustion, of feeling like there's just so much to do. Her holding this box. I love how she has the wine glass like on top of the box. Like, I gotta move the box, but I don't want to let my wine go. Gotta love it. I feel like it's because she has so many things she has to do and focus on that it's almost like nothing gets done because there's so much on the list. But the thing about it is when you make a list, it's okay if sometimes you don't get through with the whole thing. Just try again tomorrow to do one more thing off that list. And eventually, before you know it, the list will be done. This reminds me of, when Will Smith talks about the story of when he's explaining about what happened with his dad, and his brother. And it comes to the aspect of building a wall. And, he's told to just lay one brick perfectly. And then you keep doing that. And before you know it, you'll have a wall. And we could get so caught up in the fact of, oh my god, the whole wall needs to be done, instead of like, I'm just gonna do just the little bit I can and the best I can. And today maybe I was able to do 5 minutes, and tomorrow that 5 minutes is not there, and that's okay. Try again the next time that 5 minutes is there. And I also feel there's a sense of shifting energy. Like, I feel like she is exhausted. Like, she is just like, ugh, I'm over it. You know what I mean? But it's time, like, to get this energy. It's like, I feel as if it's time to make movements forward. You know, it's like get organized in a sense. You know, it's like, okay, what is all the things I have to do? Okay, yeah, that list looks long when you put it in when you put it out on paper, right? But sift through it. You know, what is the things that are most important? What I always like to do when I have like a list of things is I'll write the list, like everything I have to do, and then I will go back and I will number them as what's the most important, what can be pushed off, what can't be pushed off, and I number them, and then I just go through the number, and whatever I get through, and then come tomorrow I'll put the new stuff and then try again, you know, and then keep going through it. And some days you'll be surprised that the things that you can get done by just having that like organization of just it on a list. And another thing I've done as well is, after I've made a list, is I go through, okay, what is the easiest things I can get done that's just like boom, boom, boom. Like, if something that is just like a bunch of things you can do in a matter of 5 to 10 minutes, get those done first. Feeling like so much more is off that list, oh, you'll feel like you can breathe again. Yeah, because there's a sense of not having this self-love, of not getting your cup full, you know, and like just feeling like you're not put as a priority. You gotta love the universe. The card says there is always a way, you know, and I had said that, and I love how she just has that hammer and she broke through that wall. She's like, I'm getting out, honey. You know, I look too cute in this dress to be locked up in this cave. But I like the aspect of you know, there's always a way. There, if you keep telling yourself there's no way out, there will never be any way out, because it's basically you're programming that in. Oh, I just hit my camera. You're programming that in your mind. You know, your brain is like almost like, think of it as like Google search engine. If you tell your brain there's no way, then your brain's like, okay, all right, you said there's no way. And then if you change it to like, you know, what is a way I can do this? You know, if I can't juice, you know, sit there and juice out juices for the whole week, you know, maybe I can juice for one day. Maybe there's one day I can juice. Maybe one day I actually have time to just make one juice. Or maybe I have time to just do a large batch and just batch it out, you know, combine things, you know. So I feel like if you can focus on what are little ways that you can make a shift and you can make a change, I feel like you'll get closer and closer to the actual goal that you are trying to achieve in whatever that is that you're going for. But it says a lot about self-love and you and your body and your mind, your spirit, like you as a whole, you know, getting yourself in check, getting yourself okay, like asking yourself today, like, am I okay today? Am I good today? You know, is there things that I can put off? Like, you know, maybe I don't answer that phone call today. I'll call them back tomorrow, you know. So we have here, look around and find some signs. The universe is speaking to you. You know, it's the same way that I was talking about before, how there's always a way, there's always an avenue, there's always 5 minutes. The universe is trying to tell you that there's a path if you're willing to find it. If you're willing to allow a path to be created. You know, if you're willing to find different methods, you know, and being okay with it. It may not necessarily be the method that you would prefer, but at least it's still being something. We sometimes really do forget the magnitude of something that could be just even just a 2 minutes. I've had times where like I had a phone call with someone and it was like, say it's 10 minutes, but it was the best phone call and it was just a short and sweet one, you know. Whereas sometimes someone would have been like, you know, I only have 10 minutes, let me not call them, you know. And we can get caught up into to certain degrees of stuff where it's just like, hey, you have that opportunity now, let's just try it. Even if you don't have a plan and somehow you wind up having like, you somehow woke up early and, you know, somehow, I made it so dramatic. But what I meant is there's an opportunity where maybe today what you had planned didn't go as planned, but it left room for you to do something else, and try that, and I feel like the more that you do those little tiny steps, the more that you're going to start to see you're going to be getting more things done. You're going to feel like there's less things on your plate, even though there is so much that I feel that is on your plate. Okay, I feel like I feel a depletion energy of just kind of just exhausted. Like she's ready to nap yesterday. You know what I mean? But find the little ways to give self-love and kindness and that that hug to yourself. If you can't, if it's not in regards to like working out or give yourself love, like eat food. There's so many different ways we can give ourselves self-love. Like, sometimes taking off that TV because, or stopping that show because you got to go to bed now. It's because it's for your self-love. You need that rest. Or, choosing the healthier option instead of the cookie. It's for your self-love. That moment you chose to love yourself more. Yeah, sometimes have the cookie, but in moderation, right? So there's so many different avenues where I feel like you may not see it as an avenue, but really try to think outside the box of how can I add something to my day. Maybe I can multitask. Maybe, when I'm on my drive and instead of listening to music, I listen to positive affirmations for loving myself more or something like that. It's like finding different ways of just shifting and changing, because the little things that we can shift makes huge difference. I can't emphasize that enough. I feel like I've said it so many times. I'm going to leave you. I just saw 11:55 on the clock. There's definitely a shift and a change that is on the horizon for you. And I feel like if you can trust your intuition and see what the universe is speaking to and saying to you, this will be a lot easier. But for whatever reason, it's like your mind is tricking you, making you feel like it's a lot more difficult than it is. It ain't, honey. It's not. Don't listen to that voice.